Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon joins me and we're going to break down a whole lot of basketball stuff from where the Grizzlies are going now into the future to Reed Sheppard's defense, which I find to be a fascinating conversation. Anthony Black's leap. We're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors and more. It's a basketball-centric episode today, not a trade deadline-centric episode today for the most part. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? This may be a basketball podcast and episode, but we are quickly going to talk about the NFL playoffs because I would like it acknowledged my patience that I gave my son last night as he sat next to me and actively cheered on the Denver Broncos in their playoff win over the Buffalo Bills solely because that's who he picked in his bracket at school. And I probably lasted a good 45 minutes before I told him to very aggressively shut up and stop cheering about the Broncos because we don't cheer for the Broncos in our house. I think I deserve some credit for lasting 45 minutes before I told him to. I'm joking, but I may have told him to shut up. But it was very nice.
Hey, you know, Kansas, like you can't be doing that in Kansas. These are household lessons that must be learned, Bryce. You never know who he's going to run into out on the streets in Kansas.
The crazy thing is 5 years from now, we'll actually be able to claim the Chiefs as a Kansas football franchise and organization.
That is true.
Up to this point, we have no professional sports teams in, basketball. I think there's soccer. I don't know which side of the state line they're on, though.
Yeah, there you go. Well, there a lot of excitement there in the Simon household. I have finally figured out my house situation, which is good. We bought a new house a little while ago. We are selling this house. So we are very, very excited about that being done now, which is awesome. But we have some basketball stuff to talk about. And I think where I want to start is with one of yours, because what happened with the Grizzlies today, I think, was incredibly interesting. They beat the Orlando Magic 126-109. And you wanted to talk about the Grizzlies even before this. Ja Morant did play today, and he was obscenely good. Consistently lived in the paint like we've seen Ja Morant do before. He had 24 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds. He was a plus 26 in this game. Again, it was just one of those games where he is so capable of completely dominating and taking over a basketball game, when he is fully healthy and when things are rolling, that it reminds you of the kind of talent that the Grizzlies may be looking to trade away here before the deadline. The issue with Ja Morant, again, is that he hasn't played 6 consecutive games since 2023. And the consistency is not always there with the jump shot and with some of the things he brings. But when it looks good, man, it looks good. And he looks like a genuine superstar. And this was one of those games where he looked like a genuine superstar.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched games this year where I felt like, man, if he would just lean into this a little bit, even games where he didn't necessarily score the basketball, but you get reminded of his ability to pressure the paint. You get reminded of his passing talent and his passing ability to create for others. But ultimately, Sam, why I really want to talk about Memphis, and this was kind of my thought on another one of mine as well, is let's take stake of where they at right now. What is real on this team? Who is real? Who are foundational pieces in terms of, it doesn't mean they're number 1, number 2 options, but guys that you're not going to move necessarily. And what's next? Do they need to fully rebuild? There's conversation out there that teams are calling about Jaren Jackson Jr. Are you really going to trade all three of those guys in a 6 to 9 month span, or 12-month span if you wait and do it for Jaren Jackson Jr. this offseason? What is the path forward? So I think to do that, you have to first answer the first question, which is, what is real? Who is real on this team? Who is staying around? Who can fit into specific roles? And then you look ahead to what's next and how do we get there?
Well, and it's complicated to try and parse through and sort through all of those things, because I think there are a few guys that I really believe in and that I really trust when I watch the Memphis Grizzlies. And there are some guys that it feels more game in, game out. You're not totally sure who to trust, right? Like, I don't think that's unfair, right? So
that's why I wanted to do this, because I think there's fun players, there's good players, but are we sure that this guy is a starting level wing? Are we sure that this guy is, and what does it mean? I'll give an example. I've loved the Jock Landale minutes. I enjoy those when I tune in, because he can space the floor and he'll offensive rebound and all of those things.
Monster today. Yeah.
I'm not saying that he needs to be the first person in the conversation, but it's okay, how does this fit with Jaren? How does this fit with Zach Edey? Is this something they need moving forward? Brandon Clark's injuries are a real concern. And that's the other thing. We haven't even seen Ty Jerome. So I think they're a fun team to just go through the roster and hash out, again, what's here, what needs to stay here, what maybe not, what needs to be added eventually.
So I think that the first point here, the first point of order is Ja Morant, because that feels like, the important thing here. I would be fascinated to know how much pressure the league put on Memphis to play Ja Morant, because they're over in Europe right now, playing in Berlin and London. Adam Silver was not quiet about hoping that Morant plays, because Silver was over there and he's done press conferences, and he mentioned a couple of times that he hoped Morant would play in Europe. So I do wonder if there was a soft pressure or even just full scale pressure behind Morant playing today, frankly. The second piece of it for me, beyond Morant and playing today, is just if you move him or not at the deadline. And I would imagine that I just feel this pretty substantially. I don't think Memphis will move him unless they get something back. I understand that people think he is not all that valuable. I understand that people think that he has dealt with the injuries. People think he's I think more of a nuisance than what he is. I understand the gun, issues that he's had in the past and everything, but my understanding is that when things are good with Ja, people like being around him, in the locker room and everything. So, right now it might not be super sweet, but I think that the theory is that if you move him somewhere else, it's just going to turn out totally fine, and hopefully he'll be back to being, the fun-loving guy that he was whenever he was younger and was making all NBA teams, right? But when I talk to people around the league, they're not as worried about adding him into a locker room, hoping that is able to change. Right now, obviously, it's not great though. There was a conversation with him and Vince Williams that looked pretty animated over in Germany, I believe, when they were there. And it feels like it's not awesome, right? Hopefully that can change, but I don't think they're going to move him unless they get something of value. I think that they look at Ja Morant as a guy that can really play, and as a guy that getting something for is important to the rest of their team build, because realistically, I would say Jaren Jackson Jr. is the only other guy that would move on this team. I mean, look, you can point to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and, maybe Santi Aldama if a team wanted him, but I think that if they're going to totally rebuild, they do have to get something of value for Ja, knowing that they would also get incredible value for Jaren Jackson. I think Jaren would return a significant number of assets. But where are you on what you would do? those are the two guys you have to start with before you get into the rest of the roster. I think. Is it a situation where if you move Ja, you're trading Jaren, or are you trying to build with Jaren?
I think I'm trying to build with Jaren. I think the question of what Jaren's value is would be interesting because that contract is a pretty decent number that he signed and the extension he got this offseason. I do wonder where that would land him because I love Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's not a number one option, right? I mean, and that's what's interesting with this Memphis team and why I think this is a fun conversation is, okay, we're going to move on from Ja Morant, who for the longest time, the idea was he was going to be our number one option, our face of the franchise, all of those things. Okay, it hasn't worked. Maybe it's just time to break that up and move on. Well, how do we get that player? Do we think Cedric Coward is going to grow into that player? That's the only name on the roster I think that you could even potentially project to be that. I suppose you think that Jaren could go back to doing it. Like, I know he had a last season where a couple seasons, I guess, where he averaged 22 and a half. Like, I still don't think Jaren's the number one offense. I think we've had enough Jaren Jackson Jr. to feel pretty comfortable saying he's not that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe the highest levels of number two because of what he does defensively and all of that. Is that Cedric Coward or is Cedric Coward more of a number three? Okay. Then how do we go get a number one, Sam? Because ultimately that's what you have to, that starts your plan. I'm not saying you have to do it immediately, but that's where your plan has to start. Are we going to find a way to draft them? Are we going to be able to package together, expiring money or short-term money? For example, if I assume KCP will pick up his player option this offseason, Brandon Clark would be expiring. Are we, is there a name out there that we can then, attach this money to and go trade for? So my plan would be to probably trade Ja Morant. I don't disagree that you don't want to just trade him for peanuts. Keep Jaren Jackson Jr. with the idea that he's going to pair nicely as the number two option on my team with his defense. Cedric Coward is this just incredible young wing forward that slots in nicely around essentially anybody else we bring in. Zach Edey fits nicely next to Jaren if we can get him healthy. Jalen Wells is a nice piece. Cam Spencer, I think, is a nice piece. Like, you have a lot of nice pieces. I've been a little intrigued by the GG Jackson stuff. Like, they're using him as this defensive guy. Like, he's had to guard Desmond Bane in these 2 games in his minutes. Like, just a bunch
I
of
like
names.
that he's embraced that too.
Yes,
like it feels like he's finally embracing taking on that role a little bit more.
I watch GG Jackson and I go, man, he's being asked to guard these guys and his attention and focus is on legitimately doing that and not all of his attention and focus on trying to go get buckets. Like, it's growth for me, in my opinion, for GG Jackson is cool to see. I think you have a lot of interesting pieces around the peripherals. The thing is, you have to have a number one. You can't have, here's my question. You can't have a $50 million number two on the books and not have the plan to go and get the number one option. So I think that's the biggest thing for them.
Okay, so here'd be my question. Why? Why can't you do that? Yeah.
Because you're not going to compete. I mean, I guess you can, but like, I guess my thing, you're not going to compete until you have the number one option. You're not going to compete at the highest level.
So I agree, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of finicking with my lights here as we talk, but I agree with you that they're not going to compete unless they have the number one option. But isn't the goal here to build a title team, obviously, right? Sure. And I think that because Jaren is still only 26, like he's 26 the rest of the year, he turns, like, I think that's the thing that people kind of forget about Jaren. Jaren got to the NBA as like the youngest player in that draft class, or second youngest player in that draft class, and is still only 26 years old. He actually fits the age timeline of Memphis's players like really well. Like, Cedric Coward is still only 22 years old, which is like not that far off of what Jaren is. Jalen Wells, I think, is 23. Like, GG Jackson is 22 at this point. Cam Spencer is 25. Like, he fits the age timeline of the guys that they have. And I think that what we're kind of learning about the NBA, right? And I'm thinking about this kind of as I talk through. What we're kind of learning about the NBA right now is these players that are genuinely like elite second and third options because they both guard and they can play offense in some respect, right? These guys are almost just as hard to find as the number one option a lot of the time. Or at least it is just as hard to find, is just as hard to pay for those guys in terms of trades and things like that. You know, I think that what this does is, and you can just look at the price points, right? Desmond Bane gets 4 first-round picks. Mikal Bridges gets 5 first-round picks. OG Anunoby returns a first-round pick, RJ Barrett, and like Emmanuel Quickly. Was it a first? Maybe it wasn't a first. It might have just been.
Think about the names: Trey Murphy, Lauri Markkanen, Gigi Jackson. Like those are the names people get excited to talk about right now because
Jaren Jackson, not Gigi, but yeah.
Sorry, Jaren Jackson. Because if you're the Detroit Pistons and you feel like you need a number 2 option, those are the names that excite you because that's what you need and you don't have that. And so it would be interesting, like how many true number 1s versus true number 2s, and especially number 2s that can defend.
Yeah. So I guess this is my point. If you move John Morant, that's fine. Like, great. Like they can move John Morant. I think that the decision on moving Jaren is completely separate from the decision to move John Morant. And the reason that I say that is because he is still so young and you have him locked in and the price point is, you know, exceptional if you move Jaren Jackson to me. Like if you're so the reason that it's separated though is because Jaren is still so young. Like I think that it's actually reasonable to believe that the Grizzlies could win the lottery in the next 2 years or whatever. Maybe not next year because I don't know that there's number 1 in that draft, but like certainly this year that the Grizzlies could end up in the top 4 of the lottery and they feel like they have their guy moving forward, right? And they feel like, okay, you know, we're not making the playoffs this year. Cool, no problem. But, you know, we now have Jaren, Zach Edey, Cedric Coward, and AJ Debantza. We're in a pretty good spot. But if you remove Jaren from that equation, you're in nowhere at that point, right? Even though you would have 4 additional first-round picks to play with moving forward, right? You just look at where you, like, the most analogous situation to this is actually Utah to me.
Sure. Yeah.
Utah with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They move both of those guys. They get an insane number of picks back. In Memphis, by the way, is just a drastically better. This is not a shot at Utah. It's more of a compliment to Memphis. They're a better drafting organization than what Utah has been. Like we've just seen Memphis draft and continue to have success in the draft in a way that Utah has been up and down, I would argue, in regard to their draft success, right? Like Taylor Hendricks, it looks okay when I watch him.
Sam, this is all you have to say is our funnest conversation was who is the Jazz prospect that we are most excited about. And when we did this, when we usually have very similar answers, like we're complete opposites. Like we've had multiple. Now the answer is easy. Like it's much different, but
it's clearly Keontae. Yeah,
it's clearly Keontae now. But 6 months ago, before they drafted Ace Bailey, before Keontae broke out, we had incredible debates and conversations on who the best prospect was on that team. Right. And I think that speaks to it.
And to their credit, Bryce Sensabaugh is having a really great week this week. Like, shout out to him as well. But my point here is that it's taken Utah 4 years now to like really get anywhere, right? And to like figure out what's going on. 3 years, I guess, maybe not 4, 3, I think. And that's hard. Like that sucks for a fan base. That sucks for an organization. Like I wouldn't, if you already have Jaren Jackson on your team, you're in a really good position. And here's the thing that I would present if I was Memphis, right? I would just say, no, we don't have to move Jaren. And what that does is it actually puts you in a better negotiating position now moving forward, because with Detroit, right? Detroit is the obvious team that could use Jaren Jackson. If they got Jaren Jackson and paired him with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart in the front court, that immediately becomes the best defensive front court in the league. And he's a really good complement to both of those guys, right? They both rebound. They both accentuate, some of the issues that Jaren has. Jaren can shoot threes in a way that really, like, all across the board, this is a perfect fit in theory. What are you willing to give up for Jaren Jackson? You're willing all of your draft picks that you have, right? They win the East if they have Jaren Jackson.
So that's what I'm saying. I think if they got Jaren, I think people would feel a lot more comfortable saying Detroit's the best team in the East, where I don't think people are comfortable saying that right now, even though through half the season they have been.
What if it's you get Jaren, you give up like Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey, 3 first-round picks plus Tobias, and you get back Cam Spencer?
Oh, Cam. Well,
that's like a real, like, Cam is a real value add. That's like an amazing contract for a really good player. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting back a real thing here.
Like I'm into that but I'm more of a Jaren fan than most, I think, and think he fits seamlessly into.
Yeah.
But that seems like a huge haul. Like the other part of that, I don't want to turn this into too much of that conversation. It was like, what's Jalen Duren going to get this summer? What's Asar going to get? Like stuff like that, because Detroit could all of a sudden find themselves like Orlando, where you are very expensive really fast. What
if Memphis asks for Asar? Like Asar in multiple firsts for Jaren? I bet they would, for what it's worth. I don't know if, like, I'm sure there are other deals that can happen where like the value is so excessive that Memphis would consider it. But like, we don't have to get into specifics on this, right? The point here with Memphis is that they're in this incredible negotiating position now with Jaren Jackson, with, the Ja Morant thing is not a great negotiating position, but with Jaren, they're in an amazing position where I don't think they have to move Jaren. I'm a little bit more excited about their young core than what I think you are, because I don't know, like, Cedric Howard has been awesome the last 15 games, like genuinely great. He's averaging 15 and a half points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 51, 35, 84. Has been much more aggressive and willing to like get all the way to the rim, power his way to the basket. Just like more aggressive hunting shots as well. Like he took 10 threes in the Brooklyn game that I thought was like, he looked great in that game too. I think he is like he's definitely a starter on the wing in the NBA. Like he is 22 years old and he is already like a real starter in the NBA on the wing. And I think I'm pretty in on Edey long-term too. Like, I think that with Edey there, if he can stay healthy, and that is a genuine question, it feels like guys that are 7'4" and weigh the amount that Zach Edey does and, move the way that Zach does, like those guys aren't meant to stay. Those guys aren't meant to like put force on their bodies in the way that like NBA players have to put force on their bodies. Right. And Edey is like a workout, like, freak, and he is someone that really does the absolute most for his body to like put it in the best physical condition humanly possible. But I don't know, like I just don't know if somebody like that can stay healthy, but I do know that if he is healthy, he's a monster difference maker on defense who can, like, he has a chance to win an all, like, first team all defense like honor at some point. He could win Defensive Player of the Year at some point in a year where Wemby is not healthy. I think that's genuinely Edey's ceiling on that end. He is so good on the interior and so long and takes up so much space that he just shuts down the paint when he plays. So like that, if that's your 3, 4, 5 moving forward, Coward, Jaren Jackson, Zach Edey, 2 of those guys on rookie scale contracts for the next 2 years, it kind of gives you 2 years here to go out and find the guy and find the guard.
Okay, so that was my point, I guess. Maybe I didn't say it correctly. I don't think they have to trade Jaren Jackson Jr. I do think they need to be aggressive while they have all of these guys on rookie deals and with Jaren on his big number and all of that. Like that's what I was trying to say is if I'm okay with them keeping Jaren, but I think if you have Jaren, then like you don't just go back to the Jazz. You don't do what the Jazz have done and slow play the heck out of it with Lowry on this deal. And maybe they'll start to, like, he just got on it. But I would be aggressive, like not at this deadline. Like you don't have to move Ja at this deadline and acquire the next guy at the deadline. Like you said, maybe you trade Ja, maybe you win the lottery like the Mavs and you go get Darren Peterson and we just start going from there, right? Like we start building it out. Or if you don't, then you make the trade maybe it's not even the offseason. Maybe it's at the deadline next year or whatever. All I'm saying is I do think my path would not be trade Jaren also and complete rebuild. My path would be keep Jaren, sans a Godfather offer, but I would be very aggressive trying to build things out because all of these guys we're talking about, Edie's on a rookie deal, Coward's on a rookie deal, Spencer's on a rookie deal, Scottie Pippen Jr., Gigi's still on his, Jalen Wells, all of these guys, Ty Jerome is on a really good deal, assuming he gets healthy. Like you have all of these guys on really good deals before you have to pay. What if Cedric Coward ends up being the third option? That's going to be a massive contract. So I think your window is right now to go ahead and be aggressive, I guess is what I was trying to say, even if you keep Jaren and trade Ja.
I think so too. I think you have a 2-year window basically to go get a star would be what I would say. And I would hope it would be in the draft. And they have like a number of picks already moving forward, obviously with, I don't know, like potential for upside is the way I would put it. Like they have coming through this like crazy pick that they have this year, which, you know, they were thinking might be Phoenix's pick, but ultimately it feels like it's probably not going to be Phoenix's pick because Phoenix is too good. It's probably going to be their pick in all honesty, but they get to keep their own pick, right? You know, in 2029, they have Orlando's first round pick in a swap. In 2030, they have Orlando's first round pick, right? Like they traded one of those picks from the Bain deal to go out and get Cedric Coward, which I think clearly has worked out. And, you know, looks like what they do. And they're always really aggressive in the draft at going up and being able to find guys that they really like. I would be like genuinely intrigued. And I say this as the world's biggest Cam Spencer fan, right? If you are going down this road of, okay, we've got these 3 guys of Coward, Edie, Jaren Jackson, and we need to go find the number 1 guy. What if someone offered you like a good first round pick for Cam Spencer this year? I think that would be smart from an opposing team. And I say that as somebody like who genuinely loves Cam Spencer. What if someone like offered you a genuinely good first round pick this year? I would be ecstatic to keep Spencer on like a 4-year deal, $11 million or whatever it is. But yeah, like the idea being, okay, we have to go find our number 1 now that Ja is gone. Let's just keep getting more bites at the apple of potentially finding number 1.
I was going to ask, is this a bites at the apple thing, or is it because they're going to have 2 picks in the first round? Yeah. They just might. It depends on where they land. Like right now, Tankathon would have them hit, not spinning the lottery, and then they would get Orlando's at 16. I didn't know if you were thinking like if we had 3 or something, we could package them up to go get one of these dudes, you know, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, like, I think Cam Spencer is worth more than a first round pick right now. That sounds crazy to people. I get it, but he has a deal now that is $2.5 million, $2.4 million, $2.6 million, $2.8 million for the next 4 years.
And the 2.8 is a club option.
And the 2.8 is a team option. That's exactly right. So he'll be Arenas limited on the next deal. So like the most you can pay him is like 15 or whatever, 16 by then. It's a crazy, crazy valuable contract. Like he's worth more than a first round pick right now, I think. And if someone came and offered me that, like I would take a look at it. Right.
And just for people real quick, Cam Spencer's averaging 12 points a game on 48, 46, 92, 5.5 assists, 1.5 turnovers in 24 minutes a night. Like just people may not watch Memphis all the time or live on Basketball Reference or Real GM like we do. Like there is substance behind what you're saying in terms of like when you watch, you see the impact, but the box score numbers, like the efficiency is legit. The minutes per game are legit. Like the contract is legit, all of that.
Yeah. He will be on our 10 best contracts list when we do it later in the year. Like there will be zero question that he's on that list. And yeah, like again, like I brought up Coward earlier. Like I can't emphasize enough how good that dude is. He's really good on defense. He is a real like difference maker out on the wing because of his athleticism, his ability to shoot. He's just very versatile in the way that the best wings are. And he's continuing to get better every time he comes out on the court too. So I say all this to say that I am really excited about the Memphis Grizzlies direction almost, even without Ja Morant. And if Ja was there, like I think this is very clearly a playoff team. And if Edie was healthy too, I should say. If Ja was there and Edie was healthy, I think this is a playoff team. But even if you remove Ja, I'm also wondering now if like the mid-tier creator market, right, which isn't good enough to get them to a championship contention in the West or anything, but whatever. I wonder if the mid-tier creator market might end up being cheaper than what we think. What if they just like flip Ja Morant for Darius Garland or something like that? I'm not saying that that's going to happen right now. It would take like multiple avenues, right? Like you move Ja Morant somewhere else at the deadline, and then in the summer you go get Darius Garland, right? Probably still a great team because you would have the infrastructure defensively to really account for the issues that Darius Garland presents for you on defense, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think like.
But I don't know if Darius Garland's going to be that expensive is kind of my thing. Much in the same way that I don't know if Ja Morant is going to be, it might be a first round pick and a prospect. It might be a good first round pick or something, Ja Morant. That could be true for Darius Garland too, where they just decide, hey, we want Jalen Wells on a cheap deal and we want another first round pick and we want something else smaller, right?
Garland's an interesting name because my immediate thought is like, man, is he good enough? And obviously Darius Garland is ridiculously good, but does he meet the criteria? And this gets into the bigger conversation of what we're talking about. But I think that criteria for every team is a little bit different because depending on what you think Jaren can be offensively, depending on where you think Cedric Coward gets offensively, etc., more first round picks this year, he may not have to be a top 10, player in the NBA. If he can just on your team, if he can go get 25 a night, that might be good enough. Right. And then you have all of these two-way guys that round it out, and every team's identity can be a little bit different. So in that way, maybe Garland getting back to the Garland of a couple years ago might be enough. Like he may be a nice fit there.
Or Memphis ends up at 7th in the draft order this year and gets like Michael Brown or Kingston Flemings or something like that, right? Like they're 10th right now. They're 2.5 games behind Charlotte in 7th, right? Like, let's say that they just keep let's say they trade Ja Morant and they keep losing games, right? And they get their point guard answer in the draft instead of getting one of like the elite level players in this draft, right? Like the crazy high end guys that we think of. Like Michael Brown is an awesome player. Kingston Flemings is an awesome player, right? Like it doesn't have to be that they finish 3rd in this draft class to get Cam Boozer or AJ DeBanza. It's that, they can go 7th and they answer their creator issue. Because there are a lot of creators in this draft class as well that I think are really interesting for them.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like a bunch of those guys, I know like me and you vary a little bit. Like I think I'm a little bit higher, like on a player like Phylon than you are. But yeah, multiple guys. Or the other thing is that other one hitting in the middle of the first round. If you wanted to go a different position with I know we're getting draft talk now, but like Bennett Sturts may be there whenever that second pick comes around. And that's not exactly the high end outcome, but you don't have to get your number one option at the point guard. Like you could fill that spot, feel good, And then you go get a wing bucket getter, an off-ball guard bucket getter, and tell that dude, all you have to do is come in and score the basketball. We got all the defense. We got all the primary initiation. That's all covered. Come in and light it up and score the basketball.
Yeah. What if I told you they end up on draft night with, Michael Brown and Cam Carr, and, you've 6'5" at point guard who can like dribble, pass, shoot. You have Cam Carr, who's like a crazy bucket getter with a 7 foot to 7'2" wingspan. You put that wingspan next to Cedric Howard, who has a 7'2" wingspan. And then you have Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey. Like that's a team that has a real chance on defense. That's a team that can cover up for Michael on defense and Cam Carr to some extent, but that's neither here nor there. I think that where I'm at within this conversation, and I think that ultimately where you were going with this in terms of like what's real with the Grizzlies, what's not, what's next for them is, do you trade Jaren Jackson?
Yeah.
I don't trade Jaren Jackson if I'm Memphis. That's just kind of my opinion. I don't think that they have to move him to move into their next contention window.
I agree.
Okay. Speaking of draft talk, over on the Substack, GameTheorySamV.substack.com, GameTheorySamV.substack.com. Bryce and I are moving the NBA draft show over there. And the reason is frankly that like there is a great like committed group of you that listens, but there is just not a whole lot of like, we're not getting help from the algorithm on YouTube with the NBA draft show right now. We will still do mock drafts and stuff occasionally here publicly, and like we will talk about the draft throughout the shows like we did. But once a week, Bryce and I will be talking NBA draft over on the Substack, GameTheorySamV.substack.com. Same format as what we've done here on the YouTube for the first part of the year. We're just moving it over because while we love you and we appreciate every single committed person, and we want to continue talking draft because Bryce and I genuinely love talking about the draft, it just makes sense for the algorithm. Like it's not helping us on YouTube at the end of the day. And we apologize for that. Look, it is $6 a month for the Substack. There is a reduction on that if you go for the full year. You will get that show. You will also get film breakdowns. I have film breakdowns coming this week on Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer, Colin Murray Boyles, and I'm going to do Alan Graves, who we're going to talk a little bit about on the draft show this week, from Santa Clara, who is a really fun player. I am enormously fascinated by Alan Graves. Truly interesting, like Louisiana player of the year last year, but was like kind of overweight's aggressive, but bigger boned, bigger body guy in high school. Didn't move quite as well as what he does now. Has gotten into shape and has kind of changed his career a little bit, I would argue. Still big, but has these incredible box score numbers that have made him a darling of the analytics community for good reason, I think, too. Not a 2026, I don't think, but a real prospect. So you're going to get that. You're going to get a whole lot more over on the Substack, GameTheorySamV.substack.com. Okay, Bryce, let's just go to Anthony Black next, because I wanted to talk about Anthony Black on this show.
Yeah.
And we talked about the Grizzlies in Orlando a little bit to start here. I think that there is a case that Anthony Black's leap this year is among the most consequential like improvements from a player in the Eastern Conference, point blank. And obviously he was in the news earlier this weekend on, what would that be? Friday, I guess, Thursday or Friday, because he just dunked all over the entire Memphis Grizzlies team. He literally dunked over 4 guys in an important moment in that game. I think it was like 109 to 109, 109 to 107 or something. And he just got one in like semi-transition and just threw down on the entire team. But I think that maybe people aren't quite clocking how long this has been going on with Anthony Black. Like, this is not just a short-term thing that is happening with him where he's been really good. And yeah, he had 26 against New Orleans. Then he had 21 against Memphis in the middle of this travel. Over his last 2 months, going back to November 15th, So that's 28 games now. Anthony Black is averaging 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.4 steals, 0.6 blocks, shooting 47, 37, 74, taking 5 3-pointer attempts per game. Like, he is not going super small sample on the threes anymore. He's actually firing with some degree of confidence now from 3. On top of that, he's taking 14 field goal attempts per game. The thing that just immediately stands out to me is his first 2 years in the league. I thought he felt like a little bit tentative sometimes. It could have been a strength-based issue. I think that he looks just like physically like he's filled out a lot more right now. He is so much more confident driving to the rim. He is so much more confident getting out in transition and trying to get downhill and being physical. And this is a guy that, like, I think you and I did that draft class, didn't we? That was our first year doing the draft, right? Or was it Adam and I?
I think you were still Adam. I have notes on him, but I don't think I was doing this yet.
So I had AB, I think, get 5th in that class, in large part because I thought he was like elite on defense and had unbelievable feel for the game. And if the body and the shot came along, he was going to be like a real difference maker. It took 2 years, but we're there. Like, this is now a player that I think has an all-star ceiling if it all really comes together and the shot continues to iron out, particularly off of pull-ups. Like, I think he would need that to be the next level for him. But when you watch Anthony Black right now, do you kind of see the same things that I'm seeing, where this looks like like he is a 6'7" scoring like combo guard kind of right now? I wouldn't go as far as to say like point guard, even though that's the role he occupies for this team. But like combo-y, I would argue, in that like he can bring the ball up the court and make decisions for sure. Where are you at on Anthony Black? Let's kind of talk through that.
I feel like I would call him a 2-way off-ball guard right now. And I think, you know, when he came in and kind of what we had seen coming into this year, people might like try to call him a 3-and-D wing. And it's like, well, but he's not shooting the 3 well enough to necessarily be considered that consistently. You know, his rookie year, he shot it pretty decent on, you know, lower volume than last year. Not as good. Do you know he's shooting 51% on corner threes this year? Just ridiculous stuff. And that's why I don't think he's solely a primary initiator, point guard, whatever, because I think he can be very good off the ball. Like that's what I like about him, is he's more athletic than what I think people realize. And, you know, after this dunk, I think everybody's going to know and talk about it.
And to that point, I think that the improved strength has allowed him to access the athleticism a little bit more functionally, because he can take bumps now and like actually be able to like go through them a little bit more than what he used to be able to.
That's fair. And so what I like is he has this on and off the ball offensive ability now that he's showing this ability to knock down shots. And then you mentioned the defense, which is incredible. I did do a lot of work on Anthony Black in that class, because at that time I was only doing the other podcast, and where Detroit was drafting, it was the Asar versus Anthony Black versus Jarris Walker versus Taylor Hinch. Like that was the big debate between everybody. And I had a little bit of the same with Anthony Black in terms of like, is he aggressive enough? All of that. But I liked his defense, and then he's shown that. But this is a major leap on the offensive end, because it's not only the percentages, and, you know, like the 3-point percentage has not only gone up, the volume's gone up. Field goal percentage hasn't only gone up, the volume has gone up. As you mentioned, free throw attempts have gone up when you look at per 100 on all of this stuff. And so I find it interesting in terms of, okay, this is awesome, obviously, for Anthony Black, right? Like showing this incredible player. And I had him as an X factor for Orlando this year in terms of, was he good enough to be that third guard in the rotation behind Suggs and Bane to take and help this team elevate to where we thought they were going to be in the Eastern Conference? Now the question I find myself going is, an Orlando team that is very expensive with 4 players already now has to decide what to do with this 5th player who is extension eligible this offseason. And things get really interesting there for the Magic. Love seeing him develop, But then it's a little bit like the Denver thing with Peyton Watson right now. Like, Denver's going to have to decide, can we pay Peyton Watson? Do we have to make a move to make room for him? Whatever. Orlando's a little bit in this, like, can you be paying 40 plus million to Paolo, Bain, Wagner, the 30 million, the Suggs contract at least does descend, but can you have 5 of these guys making this level of money if Anthony Black continues to play the way we've seen, I think what you said over the last 2 months or whatever?
Yeah. And I'm realizing that there's no way I had Black at 5 because I had Whitmore in the top 5 of that class. Like,
Whitmore was the other
big
one.
Dumb idiot. But I probably had AB at 6, I would guess, in that class. Yeah, look, I think that where they go from like a team building perspective is interesting. I do just kind of want to finish on AB in terms of where this goes. Like, again, to me, it's all about where the pull-up game gets to in terms of like if he's an all-star long term. I think that he can keep doing what he's doing right now at a really high level. It's basically all catch and shoot 3 and downhill like rim attacks. It feels like to me when I watch him. He'll take pull-ups. It's just not all that effective. Like right now on pull-up jumpers from the mid-range, he's shooting 30.8%. And on pull-up threes, he's shooting 29% so far. And look, he does take those. Like he'll take 3 or 4 of those per game, but it's not where he's making his hay right now. Like he's making his hay getting downhill, getting out in transition, and then making catch and shoot threes. His catch and shoot 3 numbers at 39% this year in total, which is great. And I am really, really excited about what he's bringing there. The big question now for Orlando, as you said, is where does this go for them moving forward? Right. And I do think that's a great question just because of what they decided to do with Bain. I think that a 5-player group of Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bain, Franz Wagner, Paulo is pretty awesome. Like, I think that group can be really, really successful in the Eastern Conference. And it's going to require either Franz or Paulo to take that next leap and become like a real serious number 1 option. Right. But, I think that having all of these guys kind of mitigates that too, especially with Black making catch and shoot threes now. It opens up the floor even more for guys like Paulo and Franz to be able to drive and get where they want at the basket. If you have all 3 of Suggs, certainly Bain, who's an elite shooter, but Black, all 3 of those guys now can make catch and shoot threes to where teams do at least have to like guard them and pay attention to them. I think it totally changes the calculus for Orlando moving forward.
I agree that on the court, all of this can work. My 2 questions, and I guess my counter would be none of those 5 guys play center. So one of them has to agree to come off the bench. And 2, can you pay all 5 of those guys what is going to make them happy while also still having to pay a center because none of them can play that spot? Like, I just wonder from a roster building. And listen, Anthony Black has to finish this off, right? Like he has to do this the rest of the season for this to be like the level of conversation we're having where he's going to demand the type of contract that we're talking about. And the other thing is Orlando can just, I don't want to say play with, but they can just like let it play out, like and not do, it's going to be fine for at least 1 year. And so this isn't like an immediate decision or calculation, but I do think it's something important to track. I agree with you in general. I just don't know if this is who he is and he demands a contract that meets that they can keep all of those 5 guys on the roster at their current numbers. That seems not sustainable to me whenever none of them play the 5.
I think that you're probably right about this. I think that what the result is going to be is that you're probably going to have to move Jonathan Isaac. Like just pure, like that number is going to have to go. He can't be I know that like, people want to bring up that the contract is really advantageous and, it's only 14 million or whatever. If with Anthony Black playing this way, he can't be on the roster at that number is the reality playing the number of minutes that he plays. I also do wonder because right now, and this is the key number, they're 13 million over the tax already for next season, right? So their tax bill is projected to be quite high. It's 16 million, even going into next season. Now they can, again, if they remove Jonathan Isaac and just add minimum contract guys, okay, great. But the depth is going to take a big hit. I wonder if they're going to have to move Wendell Carter at the end of the day and go with like Goga and like a cheaper center option.
Goga and Mo
is where this, could you go with Goga and Mo at like 15 million combined at your center position moving forward versus the 25 that Goga and Wendell currently make, right? And Wendell Carter's extension, 18 million next season, 19.5 the year after, 21 basically on a team option in 28, 29. That's a really advantageous contract. Like that, he's worth that for sure. But it just might be that you have to make a choice between Anthony Black and Wendell Carter, or Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black would be another decision as well. If you think that those guys overlap in some way, shape, or form, or if you don't trust Jalen Suggs to stay healthy, do you potentially look to move Jalen Suggs this summer? I think is a real question. Suggs' deal, you're right, it's descending the whole way. It's 32 million next season, 29.6 in 2027-28, 26.8 in 28-29, 26.7 in 29-30. When Suggs is like fully healthy on the court, he is a real difference maker, I think. He is an awesome defender. To me, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He is a guy who can create shots and shoot a little bit, but you need him to be on the court if you're going to pay that significant of a number when your salary books look like this. So it's hard. It's a really tricky spot, I think, for Orlando. I do think it's a good spot to be in, right? Like, you'd rather have more good players than bad players. And I think that all of these guys obviously have trade value if they wanted to move any of them. I think Suggs would be an interesting question just in terms of what the injury history would do. But do you know what the on-off numbers are with Suggs this year, Bryce?
I don't. I agree with you that
they're like out of control.
Oh, yeah.
When Suggs plays this year in like medium or high leverage in the 561 minutes he's played, they're plus 11. In those minutes where he hasn't played in those settings, they're a minus 5.1. Like it's a big deal. And then in the 209 minutes that Suggs and Anthony Black have played together in high or medium leverage minutes, they're a plus 26.6 in those minutes. Like they like just wipe people off the court when their like backcourt is together. So I want to see more of this before I make any decisions. But you're right. Like the financial piper is coming that they're going to have to make a choice on.
And they do, again, they have time. Like, I don't want it to sound like doomsday, but like they have time because again, you can just let Anthony Black play on the 10.1 next year and then go to restricted free agent. Like you can, you have some time to figure things out. It's just as good as he's been. My first thought is, okay, how does this all look? And even the on the court aspect, because like it's okay, Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black on the court together is awesome. Well, then do you go quote unquote a little bit smaller with Desmond Bane? Okay, you can probably live with that. But now you only can play one of Franz or Paolo unless you're going to play Paolo as a small ball five, right? Or, if you're playing Franz and Paolo together, then one of those other guys, is off. And so it's just having good players, especially if you have them on decent contracts, is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I think more so my thing is there may be some tough decisions coming for Orlando. And it just, again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but they may have to, again, make a decision on Jalen Suggs. Is there eventually a decision on Franz versus Paolo that has to come? I don't think it's at the deadline right now. May not even be this offseason. I would let it play out and get more data collection. But I do think that there may be some smaller ones, like you mentioned, Jonathan Isaac. But eventually, there's going to be some really tough decisions that have to be made.
Yeah, and look, like Suggs has only played, I think, 2 of their last, what is it, like 15 games, something like that. So that's not ideal either. But I want to see what it looks like the rest of the year. Like if Suggs can get fully back, and like I think this team can be dangerous in the playoffs. Is
Sure.
fully constructed and presently constructed. Now that Anthony Black has taken the sleep, like this is, I know, where they are in the East right now. Like I get it that they're 23-18, they're 5th in the East and everything. I think this team can make a run in the East with this Anthony Black leap if Suggs is healthy and if their entire group is healthy, which is something that they've struggled to get everybody on the court together. I get that. They can play big, they can play small. They're long and athletic defensively. They have like a real shooter in Desmond Bane. I think this team can be very, very dangerous if they're healthy. And I would want to see that in the playoffs before making choices.
They're 2 games out of 3rd in the East. So like one hot stretch and, now one cold stretch and you can go the other way too, right? Like I understand that, but one hot stretch and you're fucking home court advantage again.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And you look at their schedule upcoming, obviously they lose to the Grizzlies today, but Hornets back-to-back against the Cavs, Heat, Raptors, Spurs, Thunder, really, loaded stretch there that I think will tell us a lot about Orlando if they can get healthy midway through that stretch with Suggs. That would be really good, but we'll see. Okay. Shout out to the folks over at Mizzen Main. Most dress clothes are uncomfortable. They're high maintenance and they just don't feel good to wear. You can spend too much time ironing, dry cleaning. It's really annoying. If you go golfing, if you're going to a wedding, whatever, it is tough to deal with uncomfortable dress clothes. But that's why I love Mizzen Main. Mizzen Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel great. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago. And since then, they've perfected it with modern fabrics. Mizzen Main is a company that I've been buying from since before they were a sponsor of the show. And it's largely because the pants look refined, but they're stretchy, lightweight, wrinkle resistant, and completely machine washable. They're just really easy in terms of dress clothes. It's a timeless style you can invest in once and enjoy for years. It's why thousands of guys, including myself, swear by Mizzen Main when they want to look great without the hassle. Right now, Mizzen Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com, promo code GAME20. That is Mizzen, spelled Mizzen, and Main, MAIN.com, promo code GAME20 for 20% off. Mizzenandmain.com, promo code GAME20. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen Main stores in select states. Bryce, you're up with the next takeaway.
So let's stay in the East. Actually, my other 2 are both in the East anyway, but we're going to start the Toronto Raptors. And I think it'd be good to talk about where are they at right now and where are they going. And this is where maybe there's a little bit of trade deadline talk with the Raptors, but I do think I think they're having the type of season and we're at the point where taking inventory of what this team has done so far, what strengths we see, what players have impressed, etc., is important. And then where are they at in the East and where do we think this thing can go, whether this year or into the future? I think there's maybe been some comments out there about maybe they be in on Anthony Davis. Who did we not look at one of?
We talked a little bit about Ja Morant.
We talked about Ja to Toronto. So we've talked about him a little bit, but I think just in the context to start of the season Brandon Ingram's having, scoring the basketball, we have talked Scotty Barnes because he's made, been in the all NBA and all defensive conversations. We talked a little bit about Colin Murray-Boyles, but kind of just like, where's this roster? What's real? And then how does this thing push forward for them? Yeah,
they're an interesting group because so much of what they've done has been predicated upon their awesome bench. Like Jamal Shed, every time I watch him, he gets better. And this was like my guy in that draft class. Like I freaking love Jamal Shed. I thought that he was such a stud. And I thought that was like one of my favorite picks of that draft was them getting Shed so late in that class. I had him as like a first round grade, and he went like 44 or something. He has been like, I know that Scotty Barnes is their best player, and that Brandon Ingram's averaging 22 points, and RJ Barrett has been really good, but like I know it sounds weird to say, but I think that so much of their improvement is embodied maybe by Jamal Shead. Even if he's not the one always driving it, it's embodied, because this is a team that up until late last season under Darko had really struggled on defense. And then last year they kind of figured some things out. They started picking up full court a little bit more. They started pressuring a little bit more and took a leap. And I think they were a top 5 defense late in the year, like for the last like 20 to 30 games. This year they are 6th in defense. They are really dining on their defense, in part because of that pressure scheme, right? Like they will really get after you on defense. And it's not just Shed at the point of attack and picking up full court or like 3/4 court or whatever. It's Scotty Barnes' length is everywhere. And you do really feel it in help situations. I think he's gotten a little bit better in terms of his on-ball ability. Colin Murray-Boyles this year has been so good on defense for a rookie. I know he's only played like 36 of their 43 games or whatever, and he's playing 21 minutes a night. He's getting better and better every time. His instincts are tremendous on defense, just knows exactly where to be at all times. There are moments when he's playing center, when Pirtle is out, that they struggle a little bit with him because he can just get finished over the top of by some of these bigger centers, right? Like there were even a couple moments where like Andre Drummond just was able to like go up over the top of him and score in that game where he had like 17 and 15, and he was great in that game. But his instincts, his strength, his physicality, like there's no worry there. He anticipates things a full split second before they happen. And I bring these guys up first because, again, the reason that they are 25 and 18, and they play the Lakers tonight before we record, or before we
after we record,
or after we're recording this. I'm sorry. I do think so much of it is based on the pressure defense, and is based on their ability to make opposing teams uncomfortable with the way that they play.
Yeah, I agree. If you go back to, I think our crazy preseason predictions or bold predictions, I predicted they would be the most disruptive team in the NBA this year, and it hasn't bore out that way. But I think when you watch, the eye test is still they are one of the, in terms of, even a guy like Brandon Ingram has great length. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I want to get into some of these. So I want to start with this, like, how realistic is Scotty Barnes, Colin Murray-Boyles front court? Like, do we think, is there a future of that working? You know what I mean? Because this is ultimately where I started, because this is a team I like a lot of the individual players. So like I'll just throw out some of the questions. We'll get them off and then we can come back to, like, is a Scotty Barnes, Colin Murray-Boyles front court even feasible? Or if not, what would have to happen? Because like, those two with Mamu coming off the bench and then one other guy is kind of interesting to me. Like, and I know Pirtle's still there. That's a whole other conversation. Everybody wants to kick Emmanuel Quickley off this team, right, Sam? Here's what I will say. He's their highest volume 3-point shooter on a team that is bottom 6 in 3-point attempt rate. And he leads this team in assists per game. So I'm okay. I'll hear out that you want to kick Quickley off the team and that he's overpaid and whatever, but you better replace it, because again, the things I just outlined there. I've kind of enjoyed the Brandon Ingram stuff this year. I think he's looked good. He's making a ton of tough mid-range jumpers. I know that's part of the game, of his game. And then what do we think about any of these young wings? Like, is Grady Dick going to get there? Jacoby Walter, like I kind of like Jamison Battle to come in and space the floor. Agbaji. Are we going to pick a couple and just roll with it? Or are we going to keep cycling them through? Like, what are we doing? Jamal Shedd's the only one I don't have a question about. Backup point guard. Nope. Pin. Got it. Move on to the next question.
Yeah. Like even the Elijah Martin minutes.
Yeah.
Have been kind of fun. Like, he's just so athletic and active.
AJ Lawson is the guy that like I loved at Summer League. So like he played the other night. I'm like, all right, I'm tuning into a Raptors game to see the AJ Lawson minutes here. It's just like, it's like 17 of these dudes. I'm like, can we pick two or three, maybe? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and like it's interesting to try and figure out to like where Pirtle fits in this, because he has this massive contract extension, obviously, as well. And I think they'd be able to move him if they wanted to, like if they decide that it's fine. But my impression is they're like trying to add size. Like they feel like they don't have enough size. You know what I mean? And Pirtle makes 19.5 million this year and next year. And then it jumps for the next three or the next two after that. It's 27.3 and then 29.48. He's scheduled to make 27.3 again in 29.30, but that's only 5 million guaranteed. So like there's some, lack of guarantee there, which is good. It's not a great contract, I would argue, for the next 4 years. They've been slightly better when he's been off the court. They're actually losing his minutes this year in medium to high leverage situations when he's on the court by like 0.5, and then in all situations they're down 0.1. They like barely lose his minutes, and then when he's off the court they win them by 3.4. So still a great screener, still like a guy who will grab rebounds. Hasn't been fully healthy yet. I don't know that I want to make like grand statements about him.
Sure.
But I do think if they're going to get a center, like if they want to go get a big, you're going to go get an Anthony Davis or something like that, right? I would want him involved in the deal, I think. Like I wouldn't want 27.5 million on Pirtle and then like 50 million on Anthony Davis on my sheet moving forward. I would want, I would want to remove the Pirtle money just for like balance sheet flexibility and balance.
I'd want it for depth chart clearance for Colin Murray Boyles as well. Like
totally.
You know what I mean? And listen, I think Colin Murray Boyles,
Sandro too, by the way, because that's an amazing
Mamu.
deal.
Yeah. And so like, I understand if like you would still want a true center in the mix and in the backup, but I don't need Jakob Pirtle's money to be that guy. I can go, yeah. I would go find somebody for way less money to be the true size off the bench in games where it's like, okay, we're playing Steven Adams tonight or whoever, and we can't play Colin Murray Boyles or Mamu as the 5 off the bench. So this guy's going to get minutes in this game. But I wouldn't want to bury Colin Murray Boyles and Mamu behind Anthony Davis, and because Scotty Barnes needs to play at the 4, in my opinion. So yeah, I think Pirtle needs to be, whether it's Anthony Davis or somebody else, a bigger name, or sorry, not a bigger name, but a big that is maybe not that name. I would want Pirtle as part of the deal to keep roster construction for those two guys to play, who I think are good players.
Yeah, and look, Sandro is a player option at the end of this year that he will certainly not exercise. Like he's
that's true. That's true. That's a good point.
To be on that money, like he's averaging 10 and 5 right now with 2 assists, and they're just so much better with him on the court. Like I think they need to retain him. Like I think that if it's 10 million, 11 million, 12 million, whatever it is, like I'm trying to keep him for sure. So that throws like another wrench in the center plans too, a little bit. So they're in an interesting spot here moving forward, but because of that, you can see why they're interested in consolidating right now, right? If you can combine 2 of these big salaries into one big salary for a better player, it helps with a lot of these problems, I think, on some level. And you can see why they're interested in theoretically talking about Anthony Davis, why they're interested in talking about maybe Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis is the name that like I hear and that has been reported in Toronto as well. Like that's not, new, that I actually can understand. And like, I wrap my head around that and I'm like, that tracks a little bit, because if you do like Pirtle for Sabonis, and like you'd have to throw something else in financially because Pirtle's only on 19.5 this year. Like if it's Pirtle and other stuff for Sabonis, or like even if it's like Pirtle and I'd want to get rid of like a second deal there too, like one of their bigger numbers if I could, but I don't know if they'll be able to in that kind of construction. you are consolidating 40 million at the center position for a guy that is not great on defense. But I wonder if like the heavy ball pressure stuff plus putting him next to like Scotty Barnes, Colin Murray-Boyles, everything, like, does that work better? But then if you do that, like, you maybe don't have as much of a need to retain Sandro. And I don't know, maybe the more I think about this, like, it doesn't work for their cap sheet. But if they want to go big, Anthony Davis does work well with Sandro. If you're planning to retain him, he does work better with Colin Murray-Boyles too. As I'm talking through this, I can see more why they're considering Anthony Davis, I guess.
Sorry, I'm trying to construct a trade now.
For who?
For Sabonis.
Yeah, like it'd have to be like Pirtle and something for him. The more I think about the roster construction, the more I can see why they're interested in AD. Because if you do AD and then you have like Murray-Boyles, Sandro is your 3, like 4 or 5, and then you have Scotty come down and split some minutes at the 4. And then you have still Ingram. I would guess one of Barrett or Quickly. I can see why that works for them. Like I can see them being a high-end team in the East if AD is healthy and is what he is. I just don't trust AD to stay healthy. The roster construction idea is good. I just don't think I would do AD because of the health at the end of the day.
It's interesting because, like, for Sabonis, I didn't mind where you were going with that, because if you construct the offense the right way, you can run the offense through him, right? And
yeah,
I think Scotty could work off of that well. And I do think BI, at least in the games I've watched, has leaned into like, okay, I will play off the ball, catch and shoot. He's going to get plenty of his mid-range jumpers, all of that. So it's a little bit of that creation that I talked about. So like the one I put together, like Sabonis, Quickly and Pirtle get you there. If you go Sabonis, Keon Ellis, and then like Drew Eubanks gets you just a little bit. Now, pick capital would have to go out with this as well. But like Keon Ellis in that defensive system would be absolutely insane as well coming in there. So, yeah, the Sabonis one is interesting. The books, the money part of it is fair, but isn't that, I mean, that's the thing. My thing with AD is the injury history and the contract you have to give him that it sounds like he wants. And that's why, not just for Toronto, but for anybody, I have some questions. Back to the thing with Sabonis also is, do you think they have I feel like they probably have the defensive infrastructure to like to surround him as well, right? Like you have Scotty Barnes and you have Colin Murray-Boyles and these guys that are pretty good, even at the quote unquote bigger positions, that you could get around him being not great on the defensive end.
Yeah, I think that was my immediate reaction. Yeah, it would almost, if they were willing to do Quickly, Pirtle, and like a pick for Sabonis because you're getting off these 2 massive deals, I would probably do that, I think is where I'm at. I would probably want something back. I would probably want some sort of like shooter in return here too. You can do Sabonis and Saric for Quickly and Pirtle. Like that makes it work fairly easily. But I still think they're short a shooter at that point. And you do have at that point like $3 million to play with under the tax to like go out and maybe do like Ochai and something for a shooter. I don't know. I'm like trying to wrap my head around how that works. But here'd be my other question with Sabonis, right? And I think Sabonis is one that I get. But to do it, I would need to be able to move off 2 deals. Would you? I would rather keep Barrett than Quickly, I think, in a vacuum, because I think Barrett's just been better than Quickly, frankly.
I think so also. I think that would be my answer as well. And the money, just the money's better. Like Barrett doesn't have to be better than Quickly because he makes less money and he's on a shorter deal.
Yeah. If they're willing to do Quickly, Pirtle, in like a pick for Sabonis and Saric, I might just figure out the shooting, like, and go get a point guard somewhere else if I could. Like, I don't think they're going to do Schroeder or anything. Like, that'd be hilarious. But like, I almost wish that you could find a way to get them Malik Monk, but there's just no way to do it financially.
Yeah, so I guess I mentioned the money with Sabonis, but that's not even a valid argument. Sabonis actually clears their book. I mean, Sabonis is on a shorter deal than those guys combined who are making this roughly the same amount of money. So you're actually in a better situation financially if you're Toronto.
Yeah, and if you're Sacramento, like, are you really taking back?
You're not doing that. No. So, yeah, we've wasted 5 minutes. There's no way Sacramento takes that. I shouldn't say there's no way.
You'd have to incentivize them with.
You'd have to greatly incentivize
2 picks.
I agree.
I think you'd have to do 2 first-round picks to do that.
I agree. You would have to. By the way, like, this is it's kind of on point. I appreciate their Fanspo future draft pick page so much, Sam. Like, usually you go to a team's future draft picks and it's like all of these if or protected. They own all of their own first round picks and nobody else's. And their second round picks are like very clean as well. And I'm just like, my OCD very much appreciates like just the structure of their future draft capital.
Well, like, it's very hard for me to pinpoint who I think they should chase right now.
Yeah, sure.
Which says maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should just go to battle with this team, right?
You know what the best data collection is, Sam? Them making the playoffs, which I think we both think they're on track for. You thought before the season they were on track for.
Yeah.
And let's see what it looks like in the playoffs. Because what if Colin Murray-Boyles is just a dog? Like, what if he gets there and is like, it doesn't matter. He's a little bit undersized. He figures it out with his chest and his, timing and position and all of that. Yeah. Or one of these young wings pops and all of a sudden they're knocking down threes like crazy through a series or two in the playoffs. And Barnes takes this next leap. And it's like, you know what, Bryce, you were wrong. He actually is a number one option, face of the franchise, not a number two. And then you go in the offseason and make a decision on some of it.
Yeah. I do think that if I could get off the Quickly money this year, like if I'm going to get Ja Morant and get an extra year off of the Quickly money, I'm probably willing to do that still. That would be like that'd be the only thing I'm doing. Like if I'm doing like Quickly for a better guard with less years on the deal, I think
sure
would be like my one thing. Cause I know that they want more size, but I just don't know what works for that with this team right now. Because I don't think I want to take the risk on Anthony Davis's health. And I don't think that I want to do Sabonis
and the draft capital it takes.
And I don't think I want to do Sabonis if it's Barrett and Pirtle.
I don't think so either. Maybe I like RJ Barrett too much. Am I living in a world where I'm overvaluing RJ Barrett?
No, RJ's been genuinely really good this year. Like he defends hard within the scheme. He still loses track of people off the ball a decent amount. Like it is what it is, but like he's at least like a willing defender who's averaging 25 and 4 while shooting 50, 36, like 70 from the line. Like he's still a valuable, useful player for them.
And I think my thing is, and I referenced this at the top, none of these young wings have shown enough consistently to be like they're the heir apparent to, if we trade RJ
Correct.
Barrett, here comes Jacoby Walter or insert name, right? So
right.
For that purpose, I think in some ways it's like, man, we just got way worse on the wing by getting rid of RJ Barrett. So.
Or like maybe if you can get off the Quickly money for like a wing shooter or something. What if there's no way they're a Michael Porter team, right?
No.
And you go like Ingram, Porter, Barnes across the wings and just go super big. And then you start Shed in one of Sandro or Colin Murray-Boyles at center.
It's too many players, right? Yeah.
Those 6 guys I mentioned, you start one of Colin Murray-Boyles or Sandro, I said. But then you still have Barrett at that point too, I guess. So no.
Barrett, Ingram, Porter Jr., Barnes, and then yeah.
Yeah. So no, maybe he doesn't track either. I bring up all these names because like they're the names that are like the high end names right now at the trade deadline. And it's clear that the Raptors are active at the trade deadline right now. I don't know that there's a name that really like makes a ton of sense for them right now.
Sure.
The name that would be great for them is Giannis. I think they would probably go all in on Giannis if Giannis was available.
Sure. Go crazy.
But I don't think Giannis is available, unfortunately. Okay. Where I'm at with the Raptors is I think I'm staying status quo. I love this group. I mean, I love them coming into the year, and they're sitting here at 25-18. They're as good as what I thought they would be. Scotty Barnes is sitting here averaging 28-6, and everything outside of the shooting looks incredible. Brandon Ingram has done what Brandon Ingram does. Honestly, if I can get rid of the Ingram money, like I might try and do that too, but that's a conversation for another day. He has been useful. It's just like, again, all of the on-offs like hate him in a real way. Barrett has been as good as what we said. Quickly gives them something, at least. Like he is a real shooter, like you said, from volume. But to me, it's like the guys like Shed, Colin Murray-Boyles. Those are the ones that like have kind of changed the trajectory of what this franchise was in the first year and a half under Darko, and now have like shifted them into like this defense first kind of pressure energy vibe that allows them to play at, you know, a really, really fun pace without actually playing fast. Like they're not an up tempo team, but like they're 25th in pace or something right now. But they pressure teams so much to make bad decisions that it almost feels to me like they're an up-tempo team, which I think says a lot about what their pressure does to opposing teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Next conversation I want to have is about Reed Sheppard. And the Rockets are in this like really interesting position where they have like they haven't like fallen off of a cliff or anything like that. Like that would be way too aggressive. But they were sitting at 13-4 at one point, and they are now 24-15. They're 15-6 on December 6th, and they are 506 since December 6th, basically. And I don't know totally what to do with that yet, if I'm being honest. I don't think by any stretch, I'm not saying this is Reed Sheppard's fault, but this is a weird team to evaluate. And they've dealt with like Alperin went out for a little while, and you know they've had some guys like in and out of the lineup here and there. But I think that the Reed Sheppard piece of it is really interesting to me because it feels like when I watch them that, and I've watched the Minnesota game, the Oklahoma City game, and the Sacramento game recently. The Sacramento game mostly because I wanted to figure out what's going on. And I guess I watched the 2 Portland games before that. So I've watched 5 of their last 6 games, I guess. And it feels like Ime, to me at least, is losing a bit of confidence in Reed recently. If you look at his minute totals, 18 minutes against Minnesota, 19 minutes against Oklahoma City, 22 against Chicago, 14 against Sacramento. He played a ton in the Portland game, the second Portland game, but then 21 minutes, 22 minutes, 22 minutes. The stretch before that, he'd been pretty consistently averaging like 28 minutes a night. And right now, over his last, 8 games, he's averaging 22. He's been in the teens, like, 3 of his last 4 games. He's still averaging 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 44, 41, 77. But he's been a bit less, efficient and effective offensively during this 8-game stretch. Like he's shooting under 40% from the field, only 36% from 3, only 2.5 assists per game, right? 10 points per game. And I do think that it kind of speaks to the razor's edge that Reed lives on, where if he's just like okay on offense and he's moving the ball well and he's shooting 36% from three and he's getting to that like elbow jumper and everything, and he's playing out in transition and moving the ball quickly, it's not quite good enough to cover for the defense, I think. And I do want to have like a longer discussion on Reed's defense, but where are you at overall with the Rockets, with Reed, with kind of all of it right now?
Yeah, the Rockets overall are interesting to me. I watched the Thunder game recently, and this is what I wrote. Individually, I like so many of these players. Why isn't it clicking more collectively where they are playing at as high a level as we think they should be? So my question is like, why, when I think Kevin Durant has been awesome, you know, we both had him all NBA and he's having almost a 50, 40, 90 season. I think his defensive energy has been good. Şengün's averaging 22, 9, and 6. Amin Thompson is having an incredible, like you outlined that on the recent episode, what he's been doing offensively. Jabari is kind of up and down. I think he is a huge X factor for this team. He has to make shots. I find myself really liking his defense. Everybody knows the Steven Adams stuff, you know, I mean, but you're playing Josh Okogie a lot. I've appreciated the Okogie minutes, but like, what are you if you're having to play him and start him? He started 24 games. And then Reed is just another one where I like Reed, but like I thought he got thoroughly outplayed by AJ Mitchell in that Oklahoma City game. Like I thought AJ did a great job.
Yeah.
AJ did a great job chasing him around defensively and then went right at him on the other end. And I think that's my thing with Reed is like, can he hold up at the point of attack at the cutoff point? Can he stay with guys running around? You know, like how do they have to make up for him so much? How disruptive can he be to make up for the things that he's going to give up? And then, as you said, then, you know, can he make enough shots and provide enough impact offensively to, you know, balance all of that out? So it seems like a team where the individual pieces are still interesting. You essentially play without a true point guard for 48 minutes every night. That comes into play at times. You know, like even like JD Davison is playing over Aaron Holiday in a recent game I watched. And like, this is no JD Davison hate, but it's like, I kind of like Aaron Holiday and his minutes. So it does seem like maybe Ime is trying. Dorian Finney-Smith hasn't found his footing. It seems like they're still trying to figure out the rotations and the lineups and kind of how to gel all of this stuff together.
Yeah, the Oklahoma City game was the roughest one, I thought, defensively for Reed. I think they just like really know how to like weaponize an attack against him. You know, like you said, against AJ, it was really hard. In the second quarter, he had a terrible closeout against AJ. AJ just gets all the way to the rim and scores. Then, you know, gets caught on a like screen initially and doesn't recover, and AJ scores there. Gets wrecked on another ball screen by Chet in the second quarter. And AJ scores. He got like totally turned around in transition against Kaysen, like going to the rim and like powered all the way through, and Kaysen just like kind of smoked the layup. But it was really the fourth quarter, like, you know, got totally caught on a screen and AJ drilled a three, then got switched on to J-Dub at 85-79 and just got beaten toward the rim and forced Amen to help same side. That led to a Kaysen kick out for three to get it to 88-79. And then the next like 2 possessions later, I think got driven by AJ just for a bucket. I counted before it like really got to garbage time that he'd been directly responsible for 14 points against in 16 minutes. And that just doesn't work, right? For a single player. I thought that he was better against Minnesota. Like, I thought he did really well against Mike Conley late in that game, actually, I would say. He had like a couple of real genuine stops where he stayed solid. But then like earlier in the game, like he got switched on to Naz Reid and just like had zero chance on one going to the rim. Right. Yeah, like against Sacramento, like there were a couple of moments where it popped for me, even against like Nick Clifford, right? So it's hard because if you look at what the numbers say with Reed, like just purely going off of what they tell you in all situations. This team gives up 112.8 points per 100 possessions when Reed is on the court defensively, and 113.3 when he is off of the court. So on some strange level, they are guarding better with him over the course of the full season. But I feel like against a lot of the good teams, and particularly Oklahoma City, like if they play Oklahoma City, I do wonder how much Reed can play in that series. I think that those teams have figured out a real way to like weaponize against him and make his life drastically harder on defense. And it's incumbent upon him to make it so that the offense is so much better than like what he's taking off the court defensively, that he stays on the court and hurts the opposition through his presence, right? But again, like if he goes through a slight shooting slump like he is right now, it becomes harder. It becomes much harder to keep him on the court, which kind of shows again, like he really lives on a very thin line right now. And they need him based off of the way their roster is constructed without Fred VanVleet due to this injury. Like they need Reed Sheppard to be playable. And I don't know that I'm convinced yet in the biggest moments that Ime is going to trust him defensively.
Okay, so let's go through this just real quick. Like you just mentioned the Thunder. I think like the one guy on the Thunder that you could match minutes with would be Isaiah Joe. The teams above them, San Antonio. Who's the guy on San Antonio that it's like, man, we can kind of match Reed Sheppard minutes to guard this player that's going to be in their playoff rotation?
It'd be interesting to me if they just hit him on like Harrison Barnes or something. Barnes has like a bit of a post game.
I think he has enough and that size differential is enough that I think he takes advantage of it.
But if you're kind of daring him to post, like, and you get help over, like, I'm probably good with that at the end of the day.
So it could be hey, go ahead.
Julian Champagny is the real name, though, here for what it's worth.
Okay. The Nuggets.
You probably put him on
Hardaway Jr.
or Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah. I don't even want to just stay with the starting lineup because Reed's not starting. And so I don't think it's fair to just say like, hey, who in this starting lineup? But the reason I thought of this is you brought up the Minnesota game and like no shade to Mike Conley, who is an incredible basketball player, but that is the least physical of the players we have brought up so far. And it's like, how many of the best teams in the Western Conference, you know, like Oklahoma City is a physical team with physical guards. San Antonio, physical guards. You know, like, so is there certain matchups where, okay, we can go fine. Like, I think if they play Golden State, it's like, okay, well, Anthony Melton's going to play. Pods is a physical guard, but he's not going to, like, as long as he boxes him out, it's probably going to be okay. So I think there are teams where it's like, okay, you can figure out, like, it's going to be all right. I do think there's some teams beyond just the Thunder where it's like, oh, shoot, this is going to be tough. Like, you may have to be very strategic with the matchups and the timing and all of that.
I think that what I see on defense from Reed more than anything is that the teams that are intentional about attacking him, like Oklahoma City is pretty intentional about the way that they attack him when he's on the court.
Sure.
The teams that are intentional about attacking him tend to find success against him. The teams that are not all that intentional about it are the ones where it's totally fine out there on the court for Reed and it works well. But in the playoffs, I think that teams will specifically get very intentional about attacking him.
Yeah.
Like against San Antonio will run like, you know, some sort of early off-ball action between De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle and Julian Champagny if he's out there against those guys, and Dylan Harper if he's out there against those guys, and try to get him switched on to the matchup that they want and bring him into the primary screening action, or put him like in the weak side corner and have Wemby or Luke Cornett rolling to the rim and make him make like a really difficult decision with how small he is and how difficult it can be to cover ground. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that people can point to the steals in the hand activity and some of the things that he does that are very positive on defense. And additionally, like Houston, I think does a pretty good job of hiding him in zone. And I think that is ultimately their real counter to the way that teams try to attack him, is that they will go into their zone. And, sometimes they do it to weaponize the zone because they have both Alperin and Adams out there. And those two guys are so big that you basically make teams a perimeter shooting team by doing that. Right. But it also hides Reed in a real way. And I think that they're going to have to figure out if they can counter with the zone. You know what I mean? Like, is it that they can just live playing zone, for long stretches in games in the playoffs? Or is Reed going to be so good on offense that he's able to make it work? Maybe that happens. There was a stretch this year where that was happening for sure, and he looked amazing. But I guess what I'm wondering here is, do they go out and look at somebody like Ayo Dosunmu? Like, do they go out and look at somebody like Jose Alvarado or something? I don't think it's Alvarado. Like, I think that they need someone better than that and bigger than that. And Alvarado is like a good defender. I don't mean to take anything away from him, but if I'm doing a thing where I'm getting Reed Sheppard insurance, I want somebody that's a little bit bigger, I think. Yeah. I wonder if they decide to look at that at the deadline. They're obviously like quite limited in what they can do because they're so close to the first apron. But if they could like find some mechanism to go out and get like an Ayo, because they're literally hard capped at the first apron because they signed Dorian Finney-Smith. I think I would look at that if I was them, is where I'm at. Like, I think that because Ayo can play with Reed as well. Like, it's not like you're completely removing yourself from the Reed Sheppard project. It's that I think I might want some insurance for Reed, is where I'm at, because I think that some of these really good teams are showing that he can be exploited in concerning ways, even if the grand scale, bigger numbers of regular season basketball show that they're slightly better. It's just a very nuanced conversation about Reed that I think is tricky, but I think I would want the extra cover, is where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you probably have to have an answer for that for your playoff rotation.
And like the question for me then is that, are you willing to like do Clint Capella and a first round pick or something for Ayo Dosunmu, knowing that then you're like losing your third center cover, right? Like, is that something that works for you? I don't know.
I think it would probably be worth the risk. Because as much as I love the third big and find value in it, if Adams or Şengün go down, is Capella saving it for us anyway? You know what I mean? Like, is as opposed to maximizing our ceiling of Dosunmu, and like you said, you could play Dosunmu and Sheppard together if Sheppard is able to figure it out and stay on the court. So I also just am a huge fan of Ayo Dosunmu. Like, I think he's just really good.
Yeah, I think that there are ways to do this if you're Houston, and I think where I'm at is I would want the cover. I wouldn't want to go into the playoffs like fully counting on Reed, because I worry that teams are going to be able to exploit him. He might be great in the playoffs. Like, I'm not ruling that out, but I would like the cover. Bryce, you are up at your third takeaway.
Let's talk Cleveland Cavaliers, and let's just go ahead and say, start Jaylon Tyson, and let's start building out some rotational chemistry for this Cavaliers team, who, listen, have dealt with a bunch this year. I think they're finally in the top 6 in the East. Is that still true at time of recording?
They are 6th in the East. That is correct.
Yes, 6th in the East. It's still all over the place. Offensive ratings, top 10. Defensive ratings, middle of the pack. That's probably where they've been most important. And with all due respect to Sam Merrill, who we have spoken very highly of, I think I'm cool just letting him come off the bench and do his thing. Let's put DeAndre Hunter back on the bench and let him fill that role. Figure out the rest. Like, are you going to play? What other guard are you going to bring off the bench? The big, that as well. But Tyson has been awesome from the field, from three. He rebounds. He's been disruptive defensively. I don't know that he's that much better of a defender than Sam Merrill, but I think just the size that he provides makes a little bit more sense with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And I think I would just lean into him. Let Hunter go back to the bench and fill that role. And let's start building out these rotations. And how are we going to sub? We're going to take these two out, bring these two in, and then who's coming back to start the second quarter, all of that. Kind of wanted to shout out Jaylon Tyson in the season he's having, but also tie in, just like make him a starter, put everybody else into roles that I think they would fit better into anyway.
Does this change for you if Strus gets healthy at some point?
I don't think so, because I think Strus is going to end up missing so much more time. So the report 12 days ago was expected to miss at least 4 more weeks.
Yeah. He had another surgery. He's out for another month. That was, like you said, 12 days ago. So it's, he didn't have another surgery. I'm sorry. He's still recovering from surgery on the broken left foot. I want to make that clear.
I don't think you can expect a foot injury with this much missed time to come in and then join that starting unit. So this is another, this is why I kind of landed on this, was like, Strus isn't walking through the door probably pre-All-Star break. So
yeah,
I realize you can build this chemistry post All-Star break, and this is a team that has played together for long enough. I suppose I would hear that argument, but we're halfway through the season and things haven't gone well. I think you want to start building this momentum and this chemistry now if you really want to make a run. And I'm not going to wait on Max Strus. With all due respect, I'm not going to wait on him. I will incorporate him into my second unit if and when he is able to get back and be fully healthy. And it puts a little less pressure on him, right? Like, you can work him back slowly in that role. If you get to the playoff, I would do this. Start Jaylon Tyson and then build out that bench unit.
So I think that the case for Strus here, if he ever gets healthy, is the shooting, obviously, right? Tyson, I know, is shooting 40. If you look at his last 22 games, Jaylon Tyson is averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, shooting 55, 49, 78, and getting to the line very minimally. So he's just shooting the absolute cover off the ball at this point. But he's only taking 4 3-pointer attempts per game in 28 minutes a night, because he takes the open ones, right? When he gets open, and they have a lot of guys that derive pressure, right? Or derive defensive attention. So he does get open threes, which is good. But he only really takes them when he's open. I wonder if having somebody like Strus or Merrill in the starting lineup with their ability to move off of the ball actually creates more avenues for you to get your best players open. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think it's fair. I think you're giving something no matter what. I love Sam Merrill. I just find myself feeling and I don't Tyson. I looked at I don't know what the actual measurements are. Tyson feels a couple inches bigger and 10 to 15 pounds bigger than Sam Merrill. And to me, it just it slots into that position a little bit better than Merrill's size.
And look, 3 hours ago, the Cavs released that, Darius Garland's going to be out for the next 7 to 10 days, right? Or will be reevaluated in the next 7 to 10 days, which means he's probably out for the next 2 weeks. So Jaylon Tyson is going to start for the next 2 weeks, I'd imagine. They'll play Donovan Mitchell at point and then bring Tyson into the lineup and just let him kind of rock that way, I would guess. But, I think Tyson, let's just do the Jaylon Tyson love for a moment, though. His ability to consistently get to the rim, I think, has been impressive for what the role is, right? His driving ability, I think, has been really impressive. I love the way he helps them on the offensive glass as well. I think that's a really sneaky thing. It has been a huge value add for them, is he just really crashes the offensive glass hard. He takes and makes the open threes. The passing ability, I think, has been there. He consistently makes decent reads. He'll sometimes, have the sophomore moments where he'll lose the ball, like by over penetrating, or he'll like make a weird decision. That's why the assist to turnover ratio is like pretty neutral, but by and large, like he's been incredibly valuable for them on offense. And I am like a big fan. And I think that him hitting in a real way as a draft pick at 20th overall is incredibly important for them. Like it is hard to overstate how important it is for them, because this is a team that has a lot of money issues forthcoming, right? Like they're going to figure out what to do with Darius Garland, with Evan Mobley, with Donovan Mitchell, with Jared Allen. Like I assume that they keep Mobley and Mitchell, but like they have to figure out the money piece of it. And him being on this incredibly cheap deal for the next 2.5 years makes it so much easier for them to figure out the money piece of it. Merrill being on a really good deal helps them. But like, I don't know. Like, I think they're a team that probably like, I'm guessing that they're going to try and find a home for Lonzo Ball before the deadline. And the only reason being that he makes 10 million and he's not really helping them all that much. Right. And they can save an exorbitant amount of money by removing his 10 million from their books. Like, is there any way that they could dump his money into some trade exception and give up a pick? Right.
Yeah.
I would probably look to do that if I was them. But like, they don't have a ton of first round picks, and that's a big dollar figure to be taking on. So, but even if they lose half of it, it's a big value add. Right. And maybe they can get somebody that's a little bit better. But Tyson being able to play that role, being able to take on like more physical defensive matchups, I think has been a big value add for them, and it changes what their wing rotation looks like. The other guy it changes is it allows them to move on from DeAndre Hunter's money, be it now or be it in the offseason. I would imagine that looking for a new home for DeAndre Hunter would probably be something that they look at the deadline too. Yeah.
No, Tyson's been awesome. I just think he plays really hard. I think they can use him in a few more ways. Like he definitely doesn't have the actual floor spacing gravity that Merrill or Strus have. But, if you can use him in a short roll and he can, catch and finish, or he can pass, or you mentioned get to the rim. I just think, I don't know, there'd be arguments both ways. I just think I feel more comfortable. I think the matchups they need that position to take, his size matters more. Yeah. And I think that's why I like him defensively for those, even though I think Sam Merrill is fine defensively and better than most people would give him credit for. I just think that Tyson taking those makes a lot more sense. And then, like, quite frankly, then you don't wear out Sam Merrill having to guard Cade Cunningham to start a game, or Luka Doncic to start a game, or whoever, right? And neither of them are going to do a great job trying to chase around Tyrese Maxey or Steph Curry or somebody like that. So it's not even those guys I'm talking about. I'm talking about the big primary initiators / wing players, where I think I would just trust him just a touch more. And the offense has been good enough, and he's knocked down open shots consistently enough, and he offensive rebounds enough that I don't think you're giving up so much offensively that I'm worried about it whenever then you can bring this firepower off the bench with the Sam Merrill.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here too is like I think he's just surpassed DeAndre Hunter in their rotation.
Sure. Yeah.
Like not in terms of like what the minutes always say necessarily, but I think he's just been better than DeAndre Hunter this year. Point blank.
Hunter's had a bad year, man. Like 30% from three.
Yeah, like all of the numbers dictate that they're a better team when DeAndre Hunter is off the court. Like Jaylon Tyson in minutes with DeAndre Hunter, he's played 475 minutes with Hunter and 560 minutes without Hunter. In the minutes with 475, the minutes with Hunter, they're losing those minutes by like 1 point per 100 possessions. When he plays the 560 minutes without Hunter, they win those minutes by like 7 per 100 possessions. And part of it is like lineup construction things. Part of it is that Hunter is just not the defender that we thought he'd be coming out of Virginia. He's really inattentive on defense, unfortunately, when he's away from the ball. He's big and physical and can deal with guys on the ball, but he just misses things. Like he's not consistently aware enough, and he ends up hindering your defense a little bit. through his presence on the court. Like their offense is not what's falling off a cliff when Hunter is out there. It is ultimately the defense that is way worse when DeAndre Hunter is out there. So I think Tyson has passed him at this point, and I agree with you. Like I would be starting Tyson over him if that's the choice. But hey, for the next like 2 weeks, it's probably going to be that, you know, they might just end up starting both of them at times. Just with, you know, you can go like Mitchell, Tyson, Hunter, Mobley, Allen,
Sure.
you know, versus or Merrill in one of those spots instead of Hunter, maybe. But yeah, like if the choice is Tyson or Hunter, I like 100% we're going with Tyson, and they seem to have gone that way too. Like after starting for a huge portion of the start of the season, like they've completely gone away from starting DeAndre Hunter at this point, which is the right call. But coming into the year, like I don't think that was an obvious choice to do that. And Jaylon Tyson has completely earned that responsibility.
For sure.
So, okay. My last one is on the Clippers. So, you know, we have this new news that Kawhi, you know, ultimately banged his knee in one of their recent games. I think their most recent game, and that he is leaving their road trip and will be reevaluated on like Wednesday or whatever. And any time that Kawhi bangs his knee, we're all like, you know, getting, you know, gasping for air and praying that everything's going to be fine. Right. Kawhi like just didn't make the eligibility criteria for all NBA whenever we did it. He missed by like a game or two. Because he hadn't played 75% of their games, which is a lower metric than what is required by the NBA. But Kawhi this season has been completely ridiculous. He's at 28, 6 and 4, shooting 50, 40, 94, basically. The level to which he dominates games offensively, particularly recently, has been like unfathomable on some level. It honestly breaks my brain watching him a little bit. Since he had that 41-point game against Houston in that 20-point win, the Clippers are 10-2 in that run. He's averaging 33 on 52% from the field, 45% from three, 91% from the line. The level to which it is impossible to stop him from getting to the spot that he wants is completely crazy. And on some level, like he has saved their season, right? Just through being awesome. One of the five. He looks like one of the five best players in the NBA again, Frank.
Yeah.
Is the reality. Yep. And up until this run, or this little like knee thing that occurred, he had played in, I believe it was like 24 straight games or something. Like he had played, like they were playing him full scale. But the other thing that has saved the Clippers season, it's the kids to me. They have fully had to play guys like Kobe Sanders and Jordan Miller. And those guys have responded and made life way easier for the Clippers because they have real role players now. Like Kobe Sanders is probably where I want to start because like the numbers look just kind of pedestrian, like 6.5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 44, 37, 86. It's whatever. But like he defends.
Mm-hmm.
His ball movement is awesome. Like it doesn't stick with him ever. And again, like he'll have games where he won't score in 17 minutes and in 15 minutes. And like the Clippers could use the scoring. Don't get me wrong. But his play is still, it feels like to me, pretty beneficial when he's out there. Like he had a game recently against the Kings where they just like obliterated the Kings, I think at the end of the calendar year last year. And he was like a plus 30 in this game with only 7 points because he just moved the ball quickly. He defended, he guarded, like he did everything right. And then the best game he's played this year was against Golden State. What was that, like 2 weeks ago? Yeah, where he had 20 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. And they won that game by 1. And he was just, again, really smart, really metronomic with his decision making, didn't make mistakes. And then also like consistently was able to drive in and get out in transition and get shots, right? The game against Toronto over the weekend, he was awesome in this game too. Like, it was a huge part of why they won in overtime. 13 points, 3 steals. He was really good there. Like, just continues to make really good decisions while passing, while occasionally making shots. Over his last 13 games, like I said, they're 11-2 in this stretch. 7 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, playing 22 minutes a night, shooting 46, 41, 75. And then Jordan Miller has also stepped up in a big way too. But I'll let you talk about Jordan Miller because I know that's your guy as much as it is my guy.
Well, no, I did want to talk about Sanders a little bit. I watched that Golden State game, and the mid-range shot making was impressive. And he would shot fake into a pull-up, and then he drives, uses the post dribble pickup shot fake to get another one. You mentioned the passing. I went back to my, draft notes on him, and, real advantage exploiter potential was what I put for him. And that's kind of what we talked about, and like ability to attack a closeout, keep the ball moving. And then you mentioned the defense as well. You watch a game, and then he has some really nice point of attack possessions where he'll guard somebody and take some of those matchups. So he has really stood out to me as well. And then Jordan Miller, going back to, some of the summer league stuff, but he's looked good off the bounce, couple nice driving finishes, nice driving kicks. This was against the Pistons the other night. I thought the passing reads were actually impressive in that. And I only bring those up first because we all know this is a guy that can score, So if you look over his last 10, he's averaging 10 points a game for them on 56, 44, 77, grabbing a few rebounds, but has got almost 2 assists per game in just 21 minutes. The fact that you can get 21 minutes from Jordan Miller and 24 minutes from Kobe Sanders, again, this is just a 10-game sample for me, that is massive for this team that needs help on the wing, with Bradley Beal out for the year, with Derek Jones out right now with the knee stuff, with Bogdanovich out not playing. They absolutely had to have some young players step up, and specifically at the wing position. And these 2 guys are taking advantage of that opportunity. And I'm excited to see kind of where they can continue to build it moving forward now. I'm not saying the Clippers season is like all of a sudden they're a title contender now or whatever, but if Kawhi gets back and healthy and playing at that level, Harden continues to kind of just do what Harden does. It's not always super impressive efficiency in the box score, but 26 and 8. The center position is going to be interesting to watch, but these young wings have been incredible over this recent stretch.
And look, like Niederhauser has even shown like a couple of important moments here and there, right? Like he had 16 against Washington last week, where he went 7 for 7 from the field and grabbed 5 rebounds and was a plus 14 in a game that they won by 14. Like against Utah, he had 6 points but 10 rebounds and like missed a bunch of shots like near the basket, but I thought that his presence was useful for them, and he was a plus 18 in a game that they won by 18. And then in that weird game against the Kings where they just like wiped them off the face of the earth, he had 16 in that game as well, and was a plus 27. Like it was a really, really valuable, like these guys have given them valuable minutes as much as anything. And this is a team that it's felt like has been so hesitant to go to the kids a lot of the time. And they've kind of been forced into it right now. Like Ty Lue has been forced into playing these guys due to the injuries that have just occurred. And again, it has genuinely saved their season. They are 11-2 in their last 13. They were sitting here at 7-21, I believe, or 11-21, I believe it was. No, they were 7-21. That's right. They were 6-21 even at one point. And they're now 18-23, and they are in the play-in as of the time that we record. And I would guess that they're going to end up with a winning record this year as long as Kawhi is healthy. Like Kawhi is too good, and I would guess that they're probably going to do something at the deadline.
Well, the other thing is Zubats hasn't even played. Like he hasn't played well since he returned back from injury, right? Like, like if he gets back into something close to what we saw last year, that just adds another, element. You know, he missed 4 or 5 games. And then I guess he did have a 22-11 game, but it's been very up and down. I shouldn't say hasn't played well.
Zubac's last 10, he's averaging 10 and 9. He has not been as good recently.
It's been a fair. I thought it was fair. Thought maybe I was being too hard on him, but you know, like if he rounds back into shape a little bit. So I don't think a month from now we're going to be talking title contention. I do think we could be saying healthy Kawhi in the playoffs, that they could scare a team. They could make a team really earn it in the first round coming out of the play-in, or if they, I don't know if they can get much higher than that, but I know we wanted to talk about the kids. Sam, Kawhi, I mean, obviously I watched the 55-point game. It was unreal. It was unbelievable how just methodical dude is. Essentially, if you round up, is 50, 40, 90 right now, and he leads the NBA in steals per game. He's having an incredible season.
I will say, like, the defense in the bad stretch of their season, I thought was really bad.
Sure.
I thought it was really not good. It has picked up again. Like, he has really, really started to play well on that end. I mean, they have beaten Detroit twice in the last month. Like, they're the only team, it feels like, that has had like consistent success against Detroit. When I've watched them, it's just very, very funny that's been the reality. And then they beat Golden State. Like, they beat Toronto without Kawhi over the weekend on Friday night. Like, it's not just that they've gotten into the easy part of their schedule and they're winning. Like, they beat Houston by 20 points. They beat the Lakers by 15 points. They are really, really playing well right now, even beyond just, what the record indicates.
Well,
like, they're a genuinely dangerous team right now. And look, this is around when they turned it on last year too, by the way. Like, they were good last year. They were better than they were this year. Certainly they weren't 7-21 at one point, but like, this is right around when they went from being like a pretty good team and then put it in overdrive. Right. So I'm just looking at their record now. They were 20-17 on January 8th. And then they ended the season 50-32. So they just went on like a massive run, particularly after that Denver loss. But like, also, they went through like a couple of big stretches in March and in April where they just went into the playoffs as frankly like the hottest team in the West. It feels like that has kind of turned around a bit, but it's for different reasons this year. If they get Zubac's going again, if Kawhi stays healthy, and if they keep playing the kids and they go out and like do something a little bit different at the deadline too, like I would imagine that they're going to try and go get something at the deadline in order to change things up a little bit, particularly go get somebody else who can create a shot outside of Harden and Kawhi. I agree with you. Like, they can be a dangerous team still. I don't think they can quite like get to the point where they're just a playoff team. Like, I don't think they're going to get to the top 6 in the West, if only because that's 24-16. They are 7.5 games back of 6th place right now in the West. But I think they can potentially get to the 8th seed and then end up like in the first playoff run, like, or the first play-in game where you get the double elimination factor.
Yeah. Last 15 to just like beyond the record, 5th in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating, 3rd in net. I mean, they've been good.
Yeah. And look, like, this is a sunk cost for them. This does not matter at this point, but the Oklahoma City pick, I think, is probably not going to be a lottery pick.
Yeah.
If you made me bet.
Yeah. That was looking a little crazy there for a while.
It was looking dicey when they were 7-21, but as long as Kawhi is healthy, I think that's going to end up okay. And, again, like, shout out to Kawhi, shout out to the kids. And again, like, I think Clippers fans have been begging for the kids to play as well, just to see what they have. Right. And it took all these injuries and everything, but maybe that front office did okay in identifying some of these guys, right? Like Cam Christie hasn't been great. Don't get me wrong. And Kobe Brown looks like a loss at 30th overall where they took him. But given where they drafted these guys, like if you go 2 for 5 on Kobe Sanders, Jordan Miller, Cam Christie, Yannick Coden Niederhauser, and Kobe Brown, when that's 2 30th overall picks, and like Jordan Miller, who went somewhere in the late 40s, Kobe Sanders, who went in the 50s, and then Cam Christie, who also went in the mid 40s. If you go 2 for 5 on those, that's like good front office work. That's like quite good front office work. We'll see if that ends up being the case, or if this is just like kind of a momentary flash in the pan where the kids have gotten them through a tough time. But I kind of like, I think Kobe Sanders is good. Like, I will just straight up say that. Like if I was an opposing team and I needed the Clippers are like trying to go make a big upgrade somewhere, I'm like, yeah, like I want Kobe Sanders in a deal. Like if I'm an opposing team, which I think is like a massive credit to Sanders and what he's brought. The other thing is with Sanders and Miller, it's worth noting, both on 2-way contracts, which means that they actually do have to make trades here coming up because they are running out of days.
Yeah.
Like they are straight up running out of days for those two. So, you know, the good news is that they have Chris Paul, they have the Kobe Brown deal. Like they can get rid of contracts pretty easily if they want to and just dump guys places. And it probably wouldn't cost all that much. But yeah, like they actually do have to make trades here coming up.
And just a reminder on that, it's not just games played, it's games active. So you have to find the active games to get to that 50 number. You can't just go to B-Ball Reference and look at games played because there may have been games they were active for that they didn't play in.
That is correct. You are going through that right now with Dennis Jenkins. Okay, Bryce, we've gone for 2 hours. Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. If your favorite team plays the Pistons, I have notes on them as well. Game Theory Substack, where we'll have some NBA draft stuff for you guys. And then, of course, right here, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Remember, GameTheorySamV.substack.com. The NBA draft show is going up on the Substack now. We appreciate all of you immensely for listening. We love you guys. And the like crazies that listen to that show, you're our people. We love you. But it just is, it's like really cratering the algorithm, unfortunately. We're really sorry. And we do want to keep talking about the draft, and we do love you. So, you know, we are going to do that. It's just going to be behind the Substack. So go to GameTheorySamV.substack.com. And we will be there. The podcast will exist, I promise. Go there. We will be back on Friday with NBA stuff. Hopefully there will be trades. If trades happen, Bryce and I are on the clock to go live, is the reality. Like if trades happen, we will absolutely talk about them as they occur. So keep it locked here. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.